Food, one of my favorite topics. When we were kids, my stepfather had this restaurant that he liked for a couple reasons, none of least of which was the great authentic Mexican food. To this day, I couldn't top it. Nowhere. Of course, I'm sure they're out there, but I haven't been there. But this place was called Arroyo's. It was in Stockton, California. And we lived probably, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes up the road from there. And probably at least twice a month, every other week, Tom would pack up the car and we'd be going to Arroyo's. From pretty much as far back as I can remember, I had the same meal every time. It was a burrito, wet with verde sauce, a couple extra flour tortillas, and a Coke. But one of the first times that I can remember going there was, I must have been 5 or 6 years old, I guess. And Tom had taken a whole jalapeno off of his plate and put it on mine. And I looked at that and I looked back up at him and I said, "What's this?" And he said, "Oh, that's a pickle." I guess I could probably draw a straight line to that being the moment I decided I didn't like the guy, because once I bit into that pickle, it bit back. I'll never forget that one. He, I guess when he was in the Navy, he was working with some kind of electronics, the radio people or something, but that was his job, radioman. Of course, he did say he was a snipe too, so he worked on a submarine for a little while. Maybe it was both. I don't know. Don't know much about the guy. Don't care to. But he was dating a woman when he was like 18, fresh out of high school, joined the Navy, was in San Diego, home on leave, visiting his parents up in the Sacramento, Stockton area. Met this gal, Latina, who apparently was beautiful and, what do they say, biologically gifted in many ways, including her quick wit and intelligence and cooking skills. But Tom put in the jukeboxes in this restaurant. Knew the family, knew Dad, the brothers, other sisters, some of the other folks, but he developed a taste for Arroyo's. Thank goodness. I mean, everything else is measured nowadays by that cooking, by that authentic flavor. The sauces, the tortillas were amazing. All of them handmade. They weren't done with the machine. Maybe they are now. I know they've moved. They've closed the Stockton one down and moved up the road. But yeah, okay. Enough about food. I'm starting to get hungry. It's not lunchtime yet, but a couple things I want to talk about. One, the importance of carrying 2 of something. I mean, even if you have one, that's okay. Better than none, sometimes. If it breaks, you're kind of screwed. But a knife is a good one. A knife, especially if you live in an area where it's, outside of town, or someplace you can't quickly get back into your house to get a cutting, device if you have to trim some whatever. But I had 2 dogs at the time. This was probably a dozen years ago or less. And I still have the collar that I cut hanging on the post. Somehow, these 2 dogs who were playing happily got underneath the truck and tangled up. And Mitz got her lower jaw under the collar, Schatz's collar, and they were spinning, and now he was being choked. I mean, she was having, I know it had been comfortable on her jaw, but poor Schatz was getting choked. And I got my fat ass under that truck in such a hurry. And I happen to have, and I always carry, wouldn't that be funny if I wasn't carrying it this morning? I like the little box cutter knives. Easy to clip onto your pocket, and you wear it the same place every day. And that came in really handy. It saved Shots' life. I cut the collar off, one quick swipe, and he came loose. They separated, and I looked at his eyes, and they were already starting to get bloodshot. So he was in the first stages of suffocation. It was close call. If I hadn't had that knife, and I was 5 seconds later or more, I would have lost him sooner. It's tragic. There was another one that's an example of why a knife is important. You never know. I was working on a job, I think Folsom something. Pardon. Excuse me. This was probably, 6, 7, 8, 10 years back. I can't even remember now. They all run together. It's all downhill, right? They say about Alzheimer's is every day is new and exciting. Not that I am going in that direction, but I'm just hoping not. But anyways, I'm on this job and I'm working in this house. In the entryway, the front door is open. It's summertime and there's no flies. So yeah, I'm doing my thing. And I hear this screech for about a split or second or two, and then wham, crash, something happened right outside the front door. So I hopped out and checked it out, and there was a car. Had to be horrifying for her. It was upside down, the front end of it was up against the telephone pole, and the guy wire was wrapped around her axle. And I thought, what the hell? She apparently had veered off the road, hit the guy wire, spun her car around or hooked it up, and she, flipped over and slammed into this telephone pole. And she was, I got out there as quick as I could and opened the door. She had to be in her 60s, late. Not exactly a light woman. I mean, she was a heavier gal. But she was wearing her seatbelt and she was being suspended upside down. And I know there's probably reasons that I should have, I don't know. It seemed to me that if I was going to worry about neck injuries or back injuries, that's legal. You do what you have to do in that moment. That split second, I was focused on getting that seatbelt cut and getting her out of the car safely in case flames started to, erupt. Anyways, I got her set in a safe place across the street on the lawn under the shade tree. Got her some water. Fire truck came. They asked what happened, and I told them I didn't actually see it, but I got her out of the car, and he said, "Nice job." And then, they went about checking her and getting her, over to the hospital just to get checked out, and yeah. So there's two things about knives that are important. Just those two examples alone should motivate you to consider at least carrying one. I mean, it's better than nothing, almost. Especially in these cases, it was. But I remember, you have to be not for the, the under 8, under 7, whatever, 10 age bracket. Knives are dangerous. We all know that. If you've ever prepared food and caught yourself by accident, then it's a rude awakening to pay attention to what the hell you're doing with the business end of a knife. When I was a kid, a couple weeks ago, right. When I was a kid, my father-in-law wouldn't let me buy a pocket knife. I couldn't have a pocket knife. And all the other boys had pocket knives. And he said, "No, you'll cut yourself with it." It's the same thing with the BB gun. You'll put your eye out. And I'm sure that's happened. I mean, how did that, Anyway, I went out across the street to this little shopping mall, and I bought a pocket knife. And I took that home and started looking for things to do with it. I open it, close it. I'm 100% aware that there's a sharp edge on there and I can't just go, ouch, right? So I got to whittling on something. I was sitting in the backyard, and we had a stack of wood shakes that we were fixing to put up on the roof and do some repairs. And I pulled one of them wood shakes out, and I started, shaving it, just kind of, getting little pieces of sawdust and a little pile of shavings going, making a shape. And I winded up making what I thought looked like a little fuselage for a little aircraft, a little airplane, biplane. And I thought, oh, okay, so if I make a top wing and a bottom wing with this fuselage and then cut, so I start whittling away, Next thing I know, part of the afternoon's gone, and I've got top wing, bottom wing, fuselage. Now I just need to do some details, right? And I came across a piece of wood that was kind of hard to push through, and yep, it slipped, got me. And Tom, it was index finger, didn't take it off, but it, tried. He came out of the house, first of all, saw that I had a pocket knife, and he was very disturbed by that, disappointed, because I, understandable. I should have took his advice, but that one incident sold me for the rest of my life about being even more conscious of what a knife is and what it's for and what it can do and how dangerous it can be and how useful it can be. All these things. But he brought out a cup of flour, and I had to hold my finger together because it was kind of like, and he pushed it down into that flour and kind of packed it all around there and let it sit for a few minutes. And when I pulled it out, I had this big chunk of, flour around. I hope that's not the thumbnail that the computer picks. I'll have to redo that one if so. Yeah. Anyway, sure nobody caught that. But there was a big clump of flour around my finger that stayed there for 3 or 4 days. And one of the bummers was he did allow me to get a slingshot. Right? So I had a slingshot a couple days before I got the pocket knife. And I was really looking forward to going camping with some of our friends. And Dwayne Hall was one of those kind of kids that always had the best stuff. He was always so good at everything. Yeah. But I had a slingshot. He had a slingshot. We were going to have a competition. And I've been practicing until I got the pocket knife. Because the hand that would hold the, handle, pardon me, was kind of fuckered up and tender and kind of sore, but it wasn't swelling and it wasn't infected. So, I mean, I literally let that thing fall off after 2 or 3 weeks or something, and it just kind of melted away. But I couldn't use a slingshot, and I was so disappointed. And I never got a chance to show him up. I knew I could. Yeah, I mean, just stories. There's the knife story. So that takes care of the pickle, the knife. Let's see. Like I say, I make notes, just things that I remember off the top of my head. And then I try to figure out, okay, so how am I going to take these 2 or 3 words and stretch it out based on the story of the anecdote, how it happened. And okay, lamp. There was a lamp on this table in this entryway by a staircase that was curved, from the first floor up to the second floor. And this is kind of like tucked into this little spot. I was working on this house, and I was doing some repairs. And I had picked up the lamp with one hand, grabbed the table with the other hand, moved it to a safe location, went about doing my thing, and got it all repaired. I'm moving the lamp back and setting the table down, and I saw the lamp just start to tip. And I went, it was one of them slow motion, no. I missed it, and it hit the ground, crashed one of the 3 tulip-shaped glass shades on this lamp. And I thought, oh my God. I'm already having a bad day. My friend had, anyways, gone to Mexico without me because I had to work and I couldn't. So, I'm kind of bummed about that. And then this lamp breaks. I instantly called the homeowner. I said, hey, look, I had some, I broke a lamp shade in your entryway there. And she goes, oh, okay, no problem. And I said, look, I'm going to replace it. I'll find a replacement. It will be replaced. And, she kind of said, well, just, we'll do your best and we'll see what happens. And she goes, I really like that lamp and I'd like to get it, fixed or repaired or something. So it took me 9 months of still in communication with her, letting her know the progress. But I went to 3 different places that blow glass along the coast in California, where all the cool hippies would hang out and congregate. But I found one that was close, but really not even close. I literally took the pieces of this thing home and painstakingly glued all of them together, just so I had a model, a shape, a size, and I took it to these 3 places, and then I looked at one more place, and then I looked at an old antiques warehouse in San Francisco, and I asked one of the people, I said, why is this so hard to find? It doesn't seem that, special. But apparently he goes, well, look, he, moved it over. He pointed inside. He said, see that little marking right there? And I'm looking, and it was apparently double blown. So they blew a bulb casing, and then they blew another one inside of it. And so it was 2 layers, which combined the colors, and it looked like a brown leopard skin bangle-y kind of thing. Nice colors, but it was made in France. It was very old. So, man, it was just one of those things. But I finally found a glass blower who made one that was really close. It was the right size. It was similar colors, but the homeowner said, no, I can tell it's pretty clear that the colors saturation in this one is different from the saturation on the other 2. And she was right. She was right. So I took it back to the blower and I said, can you do this with darker tones, deeper hues, more saturation? And he said, oh yeah, no problem. So he did it. She bought it. Done deal. 9 months. And so I was diligent. I don't mess up very often, or I, knock on that. I was very careful, broke very few things, and some of the ones that were broken were just excusable. They were, old shit that was getting thrown out anyway after the remodels. But this other one, this one always makes me nervous. I go in to do some drywall repair, and it's like, you have to open a patch on a wall. It means you have to put plastic down, tape it up to the wall, catch all the debris, dust, do your work. You have plastic that you have to spring up on both sides of it so that you can spray your textures and not get it all over everything else. So you basically have to make an enclosure. So many of those. God, it gives me a headache just thinking about how many repairs I did over the last 40 years. Yeah. Anyway, so when you go into a place and you see that there's shelves and shelves of figurines, doodads, glass things, antiques, delicates, you don't want to get anywhere near it. I asked the people, I said, can you take those paintings off the wall, that mirror off the wall, and just kind of set those in a safe place, those things off the mantle, scoot them over, whatever. And the husband was there, and he says, oh, yeah, no, I already, and I walked into the room. He'd already had the plastic in a tent, because I told him that's one way you could save a couple bucks, is just do some of the masking yourself, because, let's face it, masking is probably 3/4 of the job. Masking it up, taking it off, doing the protection, the actual work, the focus of the reason you're there goes pretty quick, comparatively. So now I really hadn't seen all of the glass figurines, and I didn't realize that if they were there, they hadn't been moved, because they should have been. I was very specific about anything that needs to be moved. And so I'm taking this plastic down after my job, and then I hear this clink, and I look over, and This thing was probably only 3 inches tall. It was like a rooster, a glass handmade little, cock feathers and little feet, little wings. And it was beautiful, but and fragile and delicate. And it it had tipped over, and the beak came off. he he almost went into a panic because he knew that he was in trouble. Even though I was the one taking down the plastic, that means that I'm a co-conspirator. I'm in trouble too. And wife came home. We told her about it. She didn't notice right away, but we just wanted to see if she was in a good mood or not before we laid that one on her. And she understood. She was cool about it. And I knew that there was some sort of harvest festival in town on the coast, Half Moon Bay area, and I knew that there was glass blowers that go to these things because they make shit and sell it to you. And so we took it. I took it to the beach and had a marvelous day. Dropped it off in the morning with the guy, and I came and picked it up in the afternoon. It was like $20. But I mean, I really would have to think about if there's any other times where something was broken, other than the minor, put some glue in it, push it into place. But yeah, knives are super important, and the safety of knives is important. And of course, be careful of your work environment. Move shit if you have to. Yeah, did you know that snails have teeth? There's a trivia for you. The average garden snail has anywhere between 14,000 and 21,000 individual teeth. And they're all in rows. So can you imagine being an ant hanging out on a leaf, getting a tan, right? And all of a sudden you look up, there's this thing is like 100 feet wide, and it's got all of these rows of teeth all moving up and down with, chompers. It's coming right for you. Better get your little ass out of there. But, it's more like these things are on a strip, and they're more like hooks, like a cat. You ever have a cat lick in one spot for a long time, and first it's adorable, and then next is, it's like, ow, damn, it's like sandpaper. And yeah, snails have teeth. Darndest thing. Oh yeah, I wanted to get this one in because I probably won't be doing much on this guy anymore, but just memories of stupid shit that my stepfather, rest his soul, wherever it is. But my mom was telling me a story one time. They were in the janitorial business, and there's these machines called floor buffers. They're massive. They must weigh, it took two people really, one strong one or two weaker ones, to get this thing up off the ground into the back of the truck. They'd take it to jobs, and they would, it's probably like, I don't know, 25, 24-inch disc, and this giant machine with two handles. You turn it on, and there's no steering wheel. There's no joystick. If you lower the buffer, the weight goes on the back end of it, so it pushes it to the right. If you raise the buffer, the weight goes onto the front end, and it pulls you to the left. It's an acquired skill. Trust me. Let me adjust that. It might get a little bright. Anyway, so, excuse me. Here's Tom, who happens to be a German man, probably in his 40s, I guess, at that time. And he liked beer. We had a kegger at the house. He drilled a hole in an old refrigerator, stuck a kegger in there. He didn't drink enough to, well, shouldn't say that. I don't know how much he drank, but it wasn't to the point where, it was noticeable all the time. He was just pretty modest about it. Moderate. Anyways, so they had this one job. It was in a union hall in Lathrop. And they had a party the night before for some reason, and there was still a kegger there in the back, and there was an ice bucket, and it was sitting in the ice bucket, and it was like a 15-galloner or whatever those things are, the big ones. It's still, Mom said he tipped it and it still had beer in there. So he, I don't know why he probably asked her, what do you think? Should I, what do you think? And my mom, if he asked her, she would have said, go right ahead, you're buffing, you're buffing though. And so this old boy picked up a nice clean plastic cup, went to tapping that keg. And I guess somewhere along the line, about half an hour later, Tom was never shy. When he drank a beer, he didn't bother to sip it. It was going to get warm if it sat there. So he chugged them puppies, unless it was never saw him with a great big glass, but he put those pints away in a hurry. And so I'm guessing he probably had, Mom said he had at least 6 or 7 of these things. And he got a hold of that buffer on a waxed floor, and they're trying to buff out these, dark spots from shoes and heel marks. And he had been drinking so much that he lost his balance, but the natural tendency to turn loose of something wasn't there at that moment for him. And he had a hold of these handles, and this machine is powerful enough that it started spinning him around. Feet were on the floor. He was making big dark marks on this floor that he's trying to clean, but he just couldn't turn loose. And my mom said she laughed so damn hard. Anyway, just enough of Tom. And I thought about it the other day. It's like, there's so many shitty things about the guy, but there was a few that were funny. I mean, he liked to make, what was that? It was chow mein. I think it was chow mein. No, chop suey. That's what it was. The only thing I ever saw him cook, chop suey. Good thing, too. He was terrible in the kitchen. My mom, I think she cooked 1 or 2 things that I enjoyed, but she wasn't much of a cook either. But I do remember one time him sitting at the table in the kitchen, and he was determined to get all of these cherries pitted. He sat there all night with a cherry pitter because we all gave up. We went to bed. It was like hours later, and there was just cherry juice all over the fucking place. And he had a big bowl of cherries, and then a big bowl of pitted cherries, and he'd pop, snap, pop, it's just one after the other. They're small. It takes time. We got up in the morning, and he had gone to bed, but I saw the kitchen. Apparently, he didn't notice it when he shut the light off and went to bed earlier. But when the sunlight hit it, yellow walls in the kitchen there, and there was fucking grapeseed shit, grapes, juice. I don't know how he did it. I don't know how he got it shot up all over the walls, all over the chair, all over the table, all over everything. But like I said, that's Tom. I can't think of too many other things about him that I would be interested in even speaking about, but there's that. Okay, on with the show. Yeah. See, notes takes time, You ever heard that one? People use it, shit happens. And the other one is what it is. 2 of my favorites. Those are the best fallbacks known to man. I don't see women using it very often. Wonder why that is. Maybe they say it, but just under their breath. But, something goes wrong, shit happens. I just get my truck fixed and fucking engine fell out. Is what it is. I don't know. We got a beautiful day out there. It's supposed to be snowing for the next week. Looking forward to doing some more cooking, food stuff. I'll let you know when I do.